This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema from all around the globe. Get a whole month free at Mubi.com/Karsten. Hey! This is what I watched in July. I started this month with a rewatch of Mickey 17. This was about as good and as flawed as I remember it being. Watching it without those crazy high post-Parasite expectations really highlights just how goofy and bizarre this actually is. It's interesting. It's the kind of movie with all the right pieces to succeed. It has all the bong-isms, the genre-less feel, the thoroughly explored themes, the captivating world building. But honestly, on a rewatch, I realized that there's a heart and soul to Mickey Barnes that's lacking next to the rest of Bong's amazing protagonists. That's probably the one thing that holds this back from being something more special. As a sci-fi comedy, political satire, I mean, this is pretty much exactly what you need out of that. Then I watched The Amateur. I don't mean this as a bad thing, but this feels straight out of the 2010s. It's a very sleek, self-serious, Fincher-influenced thriller that was competently made, but kind of just whatever. Doesn't really do anything that wows me, especially these days, but maybe that's fine. I'll take this any day over one of those smug spy thrillers that feel like an excuse for celebrities to travel to Europe for a few months. There seems to be a real drive to make something worthwhile here, which is, bar is kind of on the floor, but I find that earnestness really charming for this genre. I also think there's something there with Rami Malek as this character. I think he should do movies like this more often. He fits the job well. Disposable as it is, this is a solid spy thriller that'll keep you mildly entertained for a few hours. Good airplane movie. Then I watched A Beautiful Mind. So I probably never would have watched this if I wasn't making a video where I rank every Best Picture winner from this century, but here we are. That said, you can expect a fully fleshed out review for this next month when the video drops, but for now I'll just say, not my thing. Then I watched Roman Holiday. Watching this, I finally felt like it was summer. The vibes in this flick are so contagious. Watching this on a laptop in bed, I somehow felt like I went on a mini Rome vacation. I think what works so well about it is how it captures the sense of melancholy underneath it all, the idea that this sense of euphoria and freedom is only temporary. The city of Rome is captured attentively and with a sense of romance. The writing is clever and masterfully jumps between silliness and tragedy, and this is the first time Audrey Hepburn really clicked for me. I saw the magic in her screen presence and was completely transfixed for the entire runtime. Honestly, perfect movie. Then I watched the 1978 Superman, and I really enjoyed this. Believe it or not, and you can probably believe it, this was my first Superman film, and I was pleasantly surprised at how seriously it took him as a hero figure. What I mean is, when it comes to older comic book films, I'm used to like the Adam West Batman films, which I enjoy in a completely different way, the Saturday morning cartoon of it all. But in this film, Superman is portrayed as this godlike figure, and I thought it had such an interesting blend of this more cartoonish style with this more sincere, almost spiritual tone. A really interesting and more than anything fun watch that's carried by a great Christopher Reeve performance. And I watched The Boys from Feng Kui. This is an early Ho Xiaoshen film regarded as the first one where he locked in and became who people know him as today. This is a classic coming-of-age tale told through Ho's gentle and subtle approach, the kind where everything is fun and unserious until it sneaks up on you when you least expect it. He captures both locations beautifully, and the child performances are really great and energetic. Honestly, a great follow-up if you dug Millennium Mambo. Then I watched the 2025 Superman. As you probably know by now, this wasn't really my thing. I just wasn't charmed by it the way the rest of the world seemed to be, especially compared to the Christopher Reeves version, and that combined with my feelings on modern comic book films ended up making this a really frustrating experience. Considering I tend to enjoy James Gunn, considering I tend to enjoy lighthearted comic book films, but honestly, it just didn't do much for me, which is probably what led to a pretty emotional and more than anything frustrated response. All of that said, I have since come around to certain aspects of this through reading other people's comments and reactions. Having something this unabashedly hopeful in such grim times is refreshing to see. Did the hope rub off on me? Clearly not, but I appreciate that it decided to go this direction and ended up working for a lot of people. I'm happy for you guys. All that said, I will probably give this another chance down the line once the fog clears a bit. Then I watched The Tall Target. This is a film about a detective named John Kennedy, crazy enough, who has to stop an assassination of Abraham Lincoln while en route to his inauguration. The film is weirdly relevant in a number of ways, especially in how political motives are embedded in so many sides of society we're not even aware of. It's an incredibly clever and dense film for being just less than 80 minutes, and it's thrilling in a way that still holds up incredibly well today. I'm surprised this doesn't come up more often. Then I rewatched The Departed. I watched this as the first film in my weekly Broadcast Film Club, a community-driven film club live stream podcast thing that I host every week over on my second channel, Karsten Runquist. I don't really know how to describe it if you can't tell, but we talk about movies over there, and this is the first one we covered. I love this on a rewatch. This has often been dismissed as a pretty by-the-books Scorsese film, even by myself, maybe because it's the most Scorsese film. That said, even if it isn't as clean or as emotionally potent as a lot of his work, it's still a really good time with one of his greatest endings ever. Fantastic performances all around, too. And I watched The Philadelphia Story. I can't believe it took me this long to see a movie with both Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant in it together. At its peak, it's as good as you think it'll be, especially when Stewart is acting drunk. The screenplay on this is very sharp and easy to get into. The performances obviously breathe a lot of life into it. It's a really good time, and definitely one of the more sophisticated screwball comedies of its era. Definitely worth a watch. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite love triangle films, though. Then I rewatched Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, as well as the first Mission Impossible. Again, these are for the Mission Impossible video that has yet to happen. I know that was due like a month ago. I promise it's coming. Just give me a second. Then I watched Argo, also part of my Best Picture video, an aspect that feels very necessary to bring up as this feels like some classic Hollywood Oscar bait. Such a time capsule into this early 2010s era of Hollywood, where we were somewhere in between classic Hollywood storytelling and the more awards bait style of today. All of that said, never said those movies can't be good. This is a very entertaining time. And I watched Signs, first time, believe it or not, and I'm still trying to figure out if this is my favorite M. Night movie. I think it might be. It has the M. Night quirks that usually hold his stuff back for me. The unnatural dialogue, the strange score choices, but I also couldn't get over how personal this felt. It was an incredibly dense film on guilt, religion, beliefs, and isolation, with some really outstanding performances and occasionally breathtaking shots as well. The ending even worked on me, cheese and all. And I watched Kill the Jockey. This is a new film out of Argentina, shot by Kaurismäki's usual DP, which feels like an important thing to bring up because it feels a lot like a Naoki Kaurismäki movie. Quirkiness, the lighting, the absurdism, the coolness. But I don't want to dwell on that too long, as it's still entirely its own thing. The surrealism here is very unique. I don't want to say much about this other than it's about a horse jockey who ends up in a pretty bad accident. It goes down some really crazy, oftentimes hilarious roads. It has a really dry Jim Jarmusch sense of humor about it, but damn, does it tug at the heartstrings in the end. Nothing here is random for the sake of being random. It all comes from the heart. Very strong, bold vision. I gotta check out the rest of Luis Ortega's work. Then I watched Mandabi. This is an Ousmane Sembène film about a man who ends up with an unexpected money order from his nephew and the obstacles he faces in trying to cash it. The film is a pretty frustrating watch. It doesn't feel like this, but when you zoom out, it's kind of a nightmarish scenario, right? Where you're so close to achieving something and things just continue to go wrong. But none of it is out of the blue. The film is a commentary on the Senegalese government, colonialism, corruption, and poverty. It's very dense for what it is. Never overly bleak either. Sembène, as usual, approaches heavy subject matter gently. He's a filmmaker who has a lot of love for his protagonists, and that shows. I really enjoyed this, even if at times it felt a bit bare. If nothing else, it made me realize I need to dive into the rest of his work soon. And I watched Chicago. Again, this was for the Best Picture video. Enjoyed it though. Surprisingly, not the most Chicago film ever. Barely any Chicago-isms in this, but that's not really the point, is it? On that note, I think the biggest thing holding this back for me was despite how glamorous and sparkly it all was, I didn't feel this arrived at a concrete point until deep into the film, which made the whole thing a lot more interesting than I was giving it credit for earlier. More on this in a few weeks. Then I rewatched Sexy Beast. Didn't expect to finish this one. I kind of just wanted to show my girlfriend the opening and move on, but we couldn't turn it off, which speaks to the power of this film. Glazer is, for my money, the most visually appealing filmmaker since Kubrick. Few filmmakers have had the kind of confidence and understanding of textures, aesthetics, and space quite like Glazer. This film is like a freshly sharpened blade. It's shiny and attractive, but you never feel like you want to get too close. It has this tremendous sense of danger and threat lurking underneath. When this violence does come out, even then he finds a way to subvert your expectations and deliver it in the most visceral way possible. Man, I love this movie. And I rewatched Edington. I got very little to add at this point, though. I will say on a rewatch, definitely still a toughie to get through. It's the first Ari Aster film I've ever rewatched, and it was interesting to see how unenjoyable it still remained, even when I knew exactly what I was getting into. Still stand by the fact that this needed more Austin Butler, but I really liked this movie, despite its messiness and despite its unenjoyableness. Then I watched Popeye. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is an extremely bizarre movie. It's cartoonish and definitely a movie for everyone. But is it? There's nothing outright vulgar here, but why would I never show this to a child? I can totally see why many people were probably put off by this movie. This being an Altman film, and it looking and sounding like an Altman film only becomes another bizarre element on top of the whole thing. It's certainly a bit messy and thrown together here and there, especially with the boat stuff, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't smiling basically the entire time. I mean, it's incredibly entertaining. I also thought it was a really funny sounding movie. Like, if you close your eyes, all this movie really is people mumbling and making weird noises before eventually breaking into song. A ridiculous experience, but isn't that kind of exactly what this should be? Then I watched Nightmare on Elm Street 3. This is kind of crazy, but I haven't seen the second Nightmare film. I don't think I really needed to, though, and to explain myself, I watched this for my friend's birthday, which is to say I was not aware this film had so many shooters. I was a little put off by the very passionate fan base behind this thing, but now that I've seen it, I can see why. The film is dark and deeply upsetting in a way that hits closer to home than you'd expect it to. It deals with themes of depression, self-harm, and a handful of other heavy topics in a way that feels much more thoughtful than a lot of horror movies of this kind, all while still knowing how to deliver with some insane kills and really breathtaking practical effects. I loved the puppet on a string thing. So cool. Then I watched Easy Rider. This is one of those classics I've always just kind of wrote off because I was like, it looks fine. And I can totally see why so many would think that about it, as it feels very loose and vibe based in a way where if you're not on its wavelength, you're out of luck. But I love movies like this. This had such a thick, give no fucks atmosphere about it that I couldn't get enough of. I would have watched it for hours if I could. Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda are an incredible duo, and Jack Nicholson is proving scene after scene why he's one of the best to ever do it. It's one of my favorite performances of his. The music is nice, the sunset cinematography is gorgeous, and as a film about this movement, acting mostly as a slice of life, I found it pretty vivid and enlightening. It actually did not glamorize any of this in the ways I expected it to. It felt like a surprisingly thorough exploration of this era. If you haven't seen this yet, you should really get around to it, man. Then I finished the month with The Naked Gun, the 2025 version. Man, this felt good. To leave the movie theater with my face sore from laughing, it's one of the best feelings ever. There are multiple jokes in here that completely killed me. One with a windshield that was just brilliant. The jokes range from good to incredible. Nothing really bombs that hard, surprisingly. It's pure stupidity in the best way. Genuinely so refreshing to see a comedy that really commits to not ever turning into something more meaningful. But funny enough, that aspect in itself makes it more meaningful than a handful of comedies from the last few years. There are certainly good examples, don't get me wrong, but it feels like everything these days, including comedies, is trying to say something about society in some way. Everyone wants to be the important movie. Nothing is ever just stupid anymore. And I'd argue we need things like this now more than ever. We need just pure, stupid fun. Also, it's 85 minutes, which fucking rules. Oh, and I've also been watching Andor. The convincing from every person in my life and online got to me, and I thought, oh, fuck it, let's give it a go well after it's relevant. And while I do have to admit, it took me a solid 3 episodes to get into it, I'm officially very hooked. I mean this as a completely neutral statement. I forgot it was a Star Wars thing most of the time. Again, I feel very neutral about that. I also can't remember the last time I watched a TV series that looked this good. Damn, do I want to see this in a movie theater. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this, but I'm only about halfway through season 1, so I got nothing else to say. I'll keep you posted though. And hey, that's what I watched this month. Thanks for watching. Go watch these films and seriously form your own opinions. And if you're looking for something to watch next month, you should check out this week's sponsor, Mubi. Mubi is a curated streaming service, a place to watch beautiful, interesting, and incredible cinema. From iconic directors to emerging auteurs, there's always something new to discover. With Mubi, each and every film is hand-selected by its team of curators. Discover the best cinema at your fingertips, streaming anytime, anywhere. If you're looking for a place to start, I recommend EFIS, which just dropped on Mubi. It is one of the most underrated films of this year. It's a very cozy baseball hangout movie directed by Karsten that turns into a love letter to not only the game, but to public spaces, community, and so much more. It's funny and moving and incredibly unique. It's definitely a highlight of this year, and I cannot recommend it enough. You can try Mubi free for 30 days at mubi.com/Karsten. That's mubi.com/Karsten for a whole month of amazing cinema for free.